dry, they're crumbly, and they just don't have that great flavor, that comforting classic meatloaf flavor. So if that has been your experience as well, this is the video for you because I've troubleshooted all of that, and I'm gonna share my tips and tricks for making perfect homemade meatloaf in this video. I'm gonna share not one, but 2 recipes that I know you and your family are gonna love. The first meatloaf we're gonna make is a fully plant-based, and I mean whole food, plant-based, nutrient-dense meatloaf that is so delicious and actually secretly packed with lots of plant protein, lots of veggies, fiber, so good for you, but so cozy at the same time. The full recipes are gonna be written out in the description box so you can follow along, but the first thing that I like to do is chop up everything so that I don't have to do that in between all the steps. I chop it all at once and we're ready to get cooking. You don't need any special equipment to make this recipe. You can just chop the veggies by hand, but I do think it's a lot quicker and easier to use a little veggie chopper like this one. It's under $20 and it's a great way to make sure that all of the ingredients are uniform in size. When you have everything chopped nice and small and equal sizes, you're gonna get a great texture in the meatloaf later on. Next, we're gonna cook the veggies, and you wanna do this for 5 minutes on medium heat. I know it's really tempting to crank up the heat to save time, but what that can do is burn the outside of the vegetables without giving them enough time to slowly release the moisture, which is why we're sauteing in the first place. Cooking down the veggies and getting rid of some of that extra moisture is really gonna help to create a beautiful texture in the meatloaf. Next, we're gonna season with some salt and chili powder. I like to crush up dried rosemary when I use it. I learned this trick on the Food Network a long time ago. And the idea behind it is that you're basically releasing the rosemary oil inside. You're kind of bringing the dried herbs back to life, and you'll notice they become a little bit more fragrant when you do this. So do that for 5 to 10 seconds, add it right into the pan along with some dried thyme and also some dried sage. Sage is one of my favorite ingredients here. And I'm gonna use canned lentils to make this easy. You wanna rinse and drain them really well and add it to the pan. We need to take a second to talk about umami. Umami is that savory, delicious quality, and it comes from layering delicious ingredients. So all of these ingredients individually taste good, but they have a very prominent flavor. But there's something about the way that the combination of all of these ingredients with the spices and the veggies and the lentils and the nuts, it all works together to create a delicious blend that is savory, and it really makes you want to take another bite. That's what umami is all about. And so it's really about layering and building flavors, but you don't have to use fancy or weird ingredients to do that. The first layer of umami that we're gonna add is ketchup. After that, we're gonna do some Dijon mustard, and one of my favorite ingredients that I think is so important whenever you're making anything that's a meat dish, like a meatloaf, meats, balls, what else is meat, burgers, that kind of thing. Worcestershire sauce, hard as it is for me to say sometimes, I'm gonna say it. Are we ready? Worcestershire sauce? Worcestershire. Worcestershire sauce. I have 2 different brands here. I really like the Annie's Organic. This is the one that I can find all over the place, including Thrive Market, but it's usually in the ketchup aisle at most places. And also Thrive Market came out with a vegan version. Now, the original kind, the non-vegan kind, usually has anchovies in it, so watch out for that. But these 2 options do not, and I think these are total game changers because they add such a nice meatiness to every kind of like vegan meat alternative that you would make. And finally, we'll add a little nutritional yeast, and this is all gonna work together to create a delicious and craveable meatloaf. Next, I'm gonna add my walnuts, and at this stage, I like to turn off the heat and let it cool a little bit. Usually you add an egg to a meatloaf mixture, and that does 2 things. It helps to hold everything together, it binds, but it also provides a bit of lift so that the meatloaf isn't too dense. So I've got a couple of tricks for that. The first thing I do is I spread the mixture into an even layer, and then I use my spatula to make a peace sign. I'm basically dividing the mixture into thirds, and I'm gonna take 1/3 out and blend it with a little olive oil and a little water until it resembles chunky hummus. Then I'll add that back into the pan. You can also do this in a bowl with a fork if you don't want to use any equipment. Then we're gonna dry it out a little bit with some chickpea flour. This will make sure that your meatloaf isn't too wet. And finally, I'm gonna add a little bit of baking powder, and that's gonna provide that lift, so we don't need to use any eggs at all to get the same effect. this is gonna go into the oven, and while it bakes, I'm gonna make a glaze for the top. This is just going to be a mix of ketchup and Worcestershire sauce, and it adds such a nice flavor to the top of the meatloaf. It's honestly my favorite part, but it also creates a really nice glaze and sheen over the top, which I think looks really nice as well. The glaze is just made with ketchup and Worcestershire sauce, and because ketchup naturally has a little bit of sugar in it, it has a tendency to burn, which is why I don't put it on right in the beginning. I let it cook about halfway through, then I make the glaze and brush it on top and then pop this back into the oven. While that bakes, I'm going to show you some stuff that I got from Thrive Market. You can't see it, but I've got the box right here. I've been saving some of this to show you because I get a lot of my ingredients from Thrive. I have since like 2017, which in my mind feels like it's not that long ago. This box is like trying to attack me. It feels like it's not that long ago, but actually that was quite a while ago now. It's a membership-based online grocery store, and it's $60 annually, but you make that back in savings, and if you don't, they give you a credit. So it literally pays for itself, and they have lots of brands, like this one is Lesser Evil. You've probably seen this at a lot of grocery stores, but they're at discounted prices, and then it gets shipped to you in recyclable packaging. So you can grocery shop from the convenience of your home in your spare time, and what I really like about it is that they have so many vegan options. Sorry if that was loud. But like stuff that my grocery store doesn't always have or doesn't have yet that I've seen on Instagram or something and I really want to try, I go on Thrive Market and they have a huge selection, and like I said, I always save money. These are the Lesser Evil Space Balls dates. I also got organic walnuts and organic sunflower seeds. More snacks, hippies, classic, but cheaper than the grocery store. Sun Poppers, vegan sour cream and onion. These are grain-free and they say they're fueled by the sun. I don't know what that part means, but I do know that this is really good. Let me know if you guys have tried these. I showed these in a video a couple weeks ago and I got another bag because I really like them. And I feel like vegan sour cream and onion is still a little bit rare, so this is a really cool one. I also get lots of my pantry staples, especially stuff that I use often. I really try to get on Thrive Market because one, I never want to run out of them. Stuff like olive oil and white rice, I go through like crazy. And I also really like to buy organic, and I feel like organic stuff that you find at the grocery store is just more and more expensive. So getting it at a discount is really helpful, and this is the jasmine rice that I pretty much always have stocked. I also love this olive oil, so I stocked up on these. I really like these for when I'm busy. I think that they're pretty good. I think homemade is always gonna be like my favorite, but something like this with a bit of hot sauce, some cilantro, a little chopped onion on top, so easy and really fast. All I have to do on a busy day is make some rice, and then I just heat this up. It literally takes like 2 minutes in the microwave and dinner is ready. So that's everything I got this time, but if you wanna try Thrive Market, they're offering my viewers 30% off your first order and a free gift worth up to $60 when you click the link and become a member today. If you guys have been wanting to try it, I really think you're gonna like it. I see it as a win-win and so convenient, so I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's go check on those meatloaves. When the meatloaf is done, I add the remaining glaze and top it with a sprinkle of parsley for color. This is so delicious because everything is so cohesive. It's not like one ingredient really stands out. Everything kind of blends together in a really savory, meaty, satisfying way that just tastes like a nostalgic meatloaf. Up next, we have what I call a meat lover's meatloaf. This is seriously something that my boyfriend, after one bite, was like, can we please have this again? Can we add it to the rotation? This is delicious. And it's really a classic meatloaf, style. Everything about it is the same, except we're using plant-based ingredients. So instead of the eggs and meat, we're using vegan items. This one is actually a lot easier to make than the lentil loaf. And I have to say, I personally love them both, but I think if you're gonna be making one for a mixed group of vegans and non-vegans, and you want something that is just so delicious and everyone is gonna love it, this is a real crowd pleaser. First thing we're gonna do is make a vegan egg with some flaxseed meal and water. I like to do this at the beginning of the meatloaf recipe so it has a couple minutes to thicken up. I always try to start with the thing that takes the longest and work backwards from there so I save time in the kitchen. Then we're gonna take some vegan meat. Today I'm using the Beyond Meat ground or Beyond Beef ground. Add that to a bowl with carrots, onions, garlic, and parsley. And then we're gonna add some breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs help to absorb some of the moisture. They give a little bit of body and texture to the meatloaf, and you can make your own just by adding some bread to a food processor like this and pulsing it into breadcrumbs basically. Now, if you're using fresh bread, it's gonna be a little bit damp, especially if it's sourdough, which is the one that I usually have on hand. So what I like to do is just dry these breadcrumbs out in the oven for about 5 minutes. The oven is already gonna be turned on for the meatloaf, so you can just go ahead and toast those up really quickly. Then I'm gonna add my salt and also rosemary, and again, I'm just gonna crush it up with my fingers like this. And then I'm gonna add Worcestershire sauce and the thickened flax egg and mix it all together. So that's why I said this is an easy recipe, because you're literally just adding a bunch of stuff to a bowl, mixing it all together. And this one actually makes 2 meatloafs. So we're gonna put those into some prepared dishes and bake. I feel like people fall into one of two camps when it comes to what you put on top of meatloaf, ketchup or gravy. I love both, but I have to say I lean towards ketchup. I think it's so good, especially if you're gonna be having like mashed potatoes and meatloaf. I think there's something so good about the ketchup. If you think that's weird, just imagine like a burger and fries in ketchup. Obviously it's a different version of that, different presentation when you've got mashed potatoes and meatloaf, but the same vibe kind of goes. Like the ketchup is bright, it's sweet, it's acidic, and it complements the savory flavors in the meatloaf. I think it's a perfect match. However, I know a lot of people really like the meat and potatoes vibes that gravy gives to meatloaf. So if you want to forego the ketchup glaze, you can make a easy vegan gravy by following the recipe in the description box below. I have a classic beef gravy that is totally vegan that I usually use for my vegan Norwegian meatballs, and it's delicious on this recipe, or on the plant-based meatloaf. It would work really well. Just like with the other meatloaf, I'm going to glaze the top. You can do this if you're using the gravy or not, just personal preference. I go ahead and I just divide the glaze in half and I brush it on top of both of the meatloaves in a thin, even layer. I try to avoid the sides as much as possible so that it doesn't burn. And then when it goes back into the oven, it kind of sets on top like this, and it just adds this delicious layer of flavor. What I love about this meatloaf is the texture. It is so light and tender. It's got lots of flavor from the onions and garlic and carrots, but it all bakes down into one cohesive meatloaf that is so tasty and so nostalgic. It's so familiar, and I really think it's like true comfort food. So this with some mashed potatoes and a green veggie is about as homey and cozy as you can get. So like I said, that meatloaf is perfect for vegans and non-vegans. It's so similar to the original and I absolutely love it. I'm excited to hear which one you guys want to try first. Both of the recipes are in the description box below, so I really hope you guys enjoy them. Don't forget to check out the link to Try Thrive Market. That link is in the description box below, and that will get you 30% off your order and a free gift worth up to $60. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in a video very soon. Bye.